Welcome back to the discussion, Mission-Proven Commercial Capabilities Across Earth and Space, sponsored by Maxar on Federal News Network. My guests today are Tony Frazier, Executive Vice President for Global Field Operations at Maxar, Chris Schenk, Vice President for Civil and National Security Space at Maxar, and Mark Giaconia, Senior Director of Analytics Engineering at Maxar. I'm your moderator, John Gilroy. Going to turn some attention to Mark here. You know, you have a very unique position, literally boots on the ground when it comes to using satellite information. So how have you made this transition from a guy in the mud to a data scientist to a lead on the analytics team?
It's funny, actually. It started out as a complete accident. And
Don't tell your boss that.
Yeah, it was basically initially kind of forced on me to become an intelligence guy. So I was an operator, Green Beret. I was reassigned to be an intelligence instructor in what we called the Operations and Intelligence School. And they told me I was going to teach something called GIS. And I thought that was like some kind of weapon system initially. And I learned that it was actually geographic information systems. Long story short, that turned into me learning and teaching myself how to write code. And then progressing on that front through education and all that. But ultimately, going from ops and intel, since it's so map-centric, into Maxar and First Digital Globe, was actually pretty natural once I had, raised my game on the technology side. And then having the ops and intel background gave me kind of a natural analytics play to it. So, once I was able to code and do the analytics piece, it was a pretty natural move into Maxar. And actually, I'm one of the few who left Maxar at one point, but I actually came back because I was lacking in that mission closeness, feeling that I had.
Yeah.
So,
at Harvard Business School, they'd say you have to understand the customer. And
yeah,
I would say
exactly.
from Maxar's perspective, you're the one. You understand what the customer needs, what that guy in the field needs as far as communication goes, don't you?
Yeah, totally. Imagery was a big part of the operations I did in the Balkans and in Iraq and other places. It's fundamental to what you do as an ops planner and also an intel person. So, yeah, pretty natural.
Yeah. So can you give us more insight on how Maxar applies commercial success to the military?
Yeah, a couple ways. One obvious one is our imagery is commercial. And we are basically a huge partner in the GEOINT community for providing that commercial data into the government and the mission use case. I think we're huge on that one. But we also bring in the tradecraft and the speed and agility of a commercial software development and analytics company into that on the analytics side. So, we build software and we do analytics and we deliver imagery. And almost everything we do is actually kind of a commercial first model on doing that. So, we leverage open source. We're heavy contributors to open source. And we leverage, machine learning tools and the cloud and all that. So, yeah, I wouldn't put us in the same box as like your typical government contracting company where we don't have a big commercial presence for what we do. We're only embedded in all these agencies. But I would say generally we're commercial first, but on the solutions and on the edge, we are embedded very deeply in the customer. So I think we're really good at actually spanning that boundary and bringing all the commercial goodness into it.
Yeah, I've been to events where senior federal leaders have said, let's see what's going on in the commercial marketplace and take advantage of their mistakes and then apply it right there, because that's going to be an efficient way to adapt that to the federal government, isn't it?
Totally. You can fail much faster commercially.
Right.
Where in the government side, you have a tendency because of the way, tasks are managed and stuff, it's harder to fail quickly. Often it takes a little too much time. So we do a lot of stuff commercially and then bring the result in rather than, doing all of it inside, although sometimes we have to do it all in the firewall.
Yeah. Mark, I've done over 600 interviews here on Federal News Network. And the trending phrase, as you know, is artificial intelligence. You can probably go to the gas station, the guy's going to say, we use artificial intelligence here. Everyone's using it everywhere. But I think Maxar, from what I've read, is really applying it. You have this massive amounts of information. Tony talked about petabytes of information, And it could be like Bruce Springsteen, 500 channels, nothing to watch, or 500 petabytes, now what? And so you're using AI to leverage that information, aren't you?
Absolutely. Tony mentioned a few items, but let me first say this, like, in my opinion, we have to use it. Like, we don't have a choice. We have 100 petabytes of imagery. So to put that in perspective, the Library of Congress is roughly 3. So we're like 30x the size of the Library of Congress in pixels. And our pixels aren't like pictures of cats you see on the internet. You know,
No,
there's
not for a Green
actually-
Beret.
Yeah, there's stuff in our imagery that you can't see with the naked eye, but it's in there for information. And in order to exploit that much data to get something meaningful out of it, you really have to use ML and AI to just find stuff in it. Picture this too, it gives a little more context. One of our birds up in the space, our spacecraft, takes a picture. We can actually cover from Baltimore through DC in one shot.
Amazing.
And with each pixel in that image being roughly the size of the home plate on the baseball field in reality. So 1 pixel equals about 30 centimeters. Then we use machine learning to accurize that down to roughly 15 centimeters of resolution. And some of those images, one image can be almost a terabyte. So that's basically 1 image per laptop of storage. Try to think of it like that. So in order to find important things in that imagery for like an Intel and Ops use case, there's really no way to do it without doing ML. So we're not one of those companies that, you know, downloads the most recent open source machine learning thing, does a quick hello world on it, and then claims we do ML. Like, we do production grade ML for a bunch of use cases. I mean,
Great, great, great. My guests today are Tony Frazier, Executive Vice President for Global Field Operations at Maxar, Chris Schenk, Vice President for Civil and National Security Space at Maxar, and Mark Giaconia, Senior Director of Analytics Engineering at Maxar. I'm your moderator, John Gilroy, on the discussion, Mission-Proven Commercial Capabilities Across Earth and Space, sponsored by Maxar on Federal News Network.